Thank you for joining us. We are the Teen Librarians with Arapahoe Libraries, and we are bringing you some more book talks specifically for high schoolers. But if you like young adult books, hopefully you'll find one in this book talk presentation that fits for you. So we are going to get started with our book talks.
I'm going to go first. My first recommendation is We Are Not From Here by Jenny Torres Sanchez. This is one of those books that feels like it was pulled directly from current events in the headlines, partially because the author was inspired by real and current events that she has been reading about to write this story. And it follows three young people who live in Guatemala, Pulia, Chico, and Pequeña, who all have had, for various reasons, have made the decision that they cannot stay in their hometown anymore. They've kind of made the heartbreaking decision that they need to flee. Pulia and Chico have been pulled into or almost forced into one of the local gangs, and they don't want to get tied up in that life because they know that it can be deadly. And Pequeña is fleeing from the leader of that gang as well, who has decided that she should be his. And so these three set off together across Guatemala and through Mexico, trying to make it to the United States to safety. It is one of those, I will warn you, a little bit heartbreaking. There are definitely some difficult subjects that are dealt with in this story, but it is this beautiful story of survival and hope as they're trying to find their way to a better life. If you like realistic stories, I highly recommend this one.
I wanted to talk about Labyrinth Lost because this is the first in a trilogy and all of the books are out. So if you enjoyed it, you don't have to wait, you can keep going. And because I really love the characters. So this is about Alex. She lives in Brooklyn and she's from a family of witches. Brujas is what they call themselves. And they have this sort of, her family are powerful witches, and there's sort of this legend or sort of prediction that Alex is going to be the most powerful in a very long time, like the most powerful in generations. And she wants nothing to do with this because she's kind of hated magic for quite a while. She doesn't want the power that she has. And so she has this plan. She's going to do this spell to sort of remove her magic from, like, get rid of it. And that is, she's going to abdicate essentially all of her witchy abilities. But unfortunately for Alex, her spell backfires, and instead of removing her magic, it removes her family. It takes all of her family and sends them to a terrible place. And so this is the story. It's sort of this adventure she ends up having to go on to rescue them, to get them back, and try and undo what she's done with this spell. What I really love about this, the magic is fascinating, and she kind of gets pulled in. She has her best friend, and then there's this other random guy who ends up getting involved, and they have this sort of like team of people that she puts together. And what I liked about this is the way these characters sort of approach this epic quest. It does have a feel of sort of mythology, kind of the other world that they end up in, really dark. There's a fair amount of the horrible things that happen in this, violence and things like that, but really interesting. I really loved there is a little bit of romance, love story-esque. I really enjoyed that. I felt like there's some twists with the romance. This book does have some LGBTQ characters, and I really enjoyed those aspects a lot. And like I said, the whole trilogy is out, so when you finish, there's some twisty moments at the end of this book. You get to jump right into the next book. You don't have to wait. So if you're looking for, what would you call it, urban fantasy, this would be a really good choice.
Miss Meteor has been one of my favorite books in a long time. It's a very sweet and powerful story about Lita and Chicky, and they live in Meteor, New Mexico. And Lita wants to be Miss Meteor beauty pageant. She wants to go through and compete with everyone especially because she hasn't seen anyone that looks like her friends kind of represented in the pageant, let alone winning. And she thinks that she can do it. Lita and Chicky have had a falling out recently. They haven't been talking as much, but in order to kind of fulfill this and go through with her plans, she really feels that she needs Chicky to be with her. And so this could be the thing that kind of helps patch that back together. There are conversations with bullies and different things, tough conversations that are talked about through it as they're going through their self-image processes and stuff. As you go through with pageants, beauty pageants, there's a lot of that conversation. But to navigate the plan to win, they have to work together and they have to bring in all their different friends and different resources, different people they know, which I really loved. It's like this community gets behind her through this. There's amazing LGBTQ characters and relationships, and just it's so sweet. It's so realistic and kind of powerful, kind of seeing these strong characters work together and living kind of through the experience with them. The way they describe it feels like you're there. I really enjoyed it. So that's Miss Meteor.
I'll Be the One by Lila Lee is about exactly as joyful as the cover would lead you to believe. I loved the bright colors and I loved how fun this story was. It tells the story of Sky Shin, who is an unapologetically fat Korean American who loves K-pop, particularly loves BTS, if you're a BTS fan, and dreams of becoming a dancer and singer in a K-pop group. Her mom has told her her entire life that she can't do this, that she's far too tall, she's far too big, all of these things. But she decides that she's going to defy all expectations and try out for a new reality show that is auditioning singers and dancers for an upcoming K-pop group that they're trying to put together. And this is her story of going through that experience. If you like books by Jenny Han or Julie Murphy, who wrote Dumplin', I highly recommend I'll Be the One.
So Muslim Girl, A Coming of Age is nonfiction. This one is a memoir, essentially. And the author is the founder of the website. I don't know if you all have visited, but you could check it out. There's a lot of cool writing and reporting there. It's called muslimgirl.com. And so the author, she created this website, she started it, but the book itself is a little bit about that, a little bit about what it's like to kind of be an entrepreneur. But mostly what the story is about is her experience growing up Muslim in America. She was 9 years old. The author was 9 years old when 9/11, the terrorist attacks on 9/11 happened. And this is sort of her story of what it was like how the world changed for her, not just for America, but what like as a whole, but what happened personally, what did she see, how did people who she'd formerly been friends with or people who'd been acquaintances or people who just like knew her and her family, the ways they changed toward her family and the way like the media changed around the way they cover people who are Muslim. And so I really found this book interesting because she's very blunt. She has lots of statistics, lots of data that she talks about, but she's also just sort of sharing her story and she doesn't sugarcoat it. And she doesn't ask you to sort of agree with what she's saying, but she really does a great job, I think, of sort of sharing her heart and sharing what her lived experience is like. And I feel like it's one of those books that is really wonderful. It's not super long, but it does a really good job of kind of immersing you in someone's world, which is what some of the best nonfiction does. So I highly recommend this one. And even if you don't pick up the book, you should check out muslimgirl.com. There's a lot of great reporting there and it has a very specific viewpoint. So really fun reads all around.
I Killed Zoe Spanos is one of my favorite thriller suspense stories that I've read in a really long time. And it's about Anna, and she is starting a new summer job nannying in a new community. And so she's getting to know the area, obviously the family and things. And as she's in town with the person she's nannying, she's noticing that people are looking at her and kind of doing double takes. And someone even is like, Zoe? And so she's starting to ask questions. She's like, who's this Zoe person? It's not just one person. And it turns out Zoe died over a year ago, around a year ago. And her boyfriend is in jail for the murder. But a lot of people consider it kind of an unsolved mystery because they don't believe that the boyfriend did it, especially his sister, who is really fighting to figure out what happened. Obviously, they know that she passed, and so they're trying to figure it out to the point that his sister has started this podcast. And so Anna's very curious. She's absorbing everything she can, reading news articles, listening to the podcast. And she starts, as she's looking things up, she sees a picture and she looks just like Zoe. So she's even more interested now because she really feels this connection. And the more she digs, the more like memories and thoughts and feelings that she doesn't remember are starting to come to light. And it does get really intense, as you can imagine, when people are noticing that she's looking into things. There's threats and there's things that are happening that make it really kind of on the edge of your seat. One of my favorite parts is during the podcast. If you listen to the audiobook, it sounds like a radio. It switches between sounding like a recording, which I really liked. It really gives you that sense of space, of kind of being there, like you are investigating with her. So if you like that investigating type story, I highly recommend I Killed Zoe Spanos.
I don't know if anyone else likes to do this, but sometimes I like to pick a book based entirely on the cover and not read the summary of the book and make some of my own assumptions about what I think the book is going to be about based on the title and maybe what's on the cover. And so with C.A. Martinez and the Moonlit Beginning of Everything, I did exactly that. I didn't read what it was supposed to be about. I picked it up thinking, this looks like a nice, maybe desert story. Maybe there will be some elements of magic in it because it seemed like there were some mystical fairy lights on the cover. And this book threw me so many curveballs. I just did not know what I was getting into, I think. It definitely does have some elements of Mexican folklore as well as other things mixed in. It is the story of Sia, whose mom was deported by ICE 3 years ago, and her mother has since disappeared. And Sia likes to go out into the desert, and she has this particular spot where she likes to go and essentially talk to her ancestors, and they kind of show up in these mystical lights in her mind. And she has felt for a while that she is out there talking with her grandmother and possibly her mom, because people believe her mom died in the desert trying to make her way back. And then a curveball is thrown. And I'm not going to tell you what that is because it's slightly spoiler, but it changes the entire book and it goes in directions that I never expected. It was really fascinating. I enjoyed it quite a bit. That is C.A. Martinez and the Moonlit Beginning of Everything.
The Walled City is a book that I picked up because I really was drawn in by the cover. I really like thrillers, and this book delivers on that. This is one of those like nail-biting page turner of a stories. It's standalone, and I thought at first when I first opened it and started reading that this would be a dystopian. It's not exactly, but it has some overlap with dystopian stories. It's set in a city that is walled in, and this book is based on an actual real life city. You could go ahead and Google if you'd like, if you haven't heard of it, Kowloon walled city. And the history of that city alone is fascinating. That's what this book is based on. So it's this very tightly, densely populated area where there are three characters telling the story. Their stories kind of twine together. And one is this young man who's sort of on a timeline. They're all on a timeline, but he's on a timeline. He's got, I think, 18 days to get out of the city before question mark terrible things. And so there's a lot of dark stuff that's going on in this book. He is currently running drugs for a specific gang in order to sort of earn his freedom, get out, get escaped from this entire situation that's not great. He ends up teaming up with one of our other characters who has a big secret. They are kind of keeping a secret from everyone around them, hoping that it doesn't get found out. They team up together because our second character really is looking for their sister who has been missing. And the sister's the third character. She is working in a brothel in the city. So like I said, some dark, more mature themes in this book. But what works for me so well, this is a story of like bad things happening and people sort of finding their way out of them, figuring out sort of tricking the system, working the system, if you want to call it that way. And it has these little mysteries that get revealed as well as the bigger mystery of the city itself. So if you like those kind of grittier stories that keep you wanting to know what happens, this is a good choice. It's standalone. There's nothing more after it. The world building is really fascinating. And if you like found family, which is one of my favorite tropes in fiction, this one has a good lot of that, as well as a really enjoyable cat character, who is definitely one of the best cats in literature, in my opinion. So.
Early Departure is a very different kind of book. It has magical realism, but the topic is very different than I've seen before, and I really enjoyed it. It got me thinking. But it's a story that has lots of layers and really gets you thinking, but also makes you laugh. There's some really funny things. The characters are really strong. And it's about Jamal and Q. They used to be friends, but they had a pretty big falling out after Jamal's parents died in an accident. It's been 2 years since that happened, and they still haven't really talked, and they used to be best friends. You kind of learn, it kind of unfolds what happened in that argument. But then Q dies in an accident, and so now Jamal feels really bad that he wasn't able to patch things. He's starting to think he should have chosen things differently. But when he goes to visit his Q's parents, his mom has found out that there is a health care technology that will let Q be able to live again, even if just for a little while. It's called reimagining, and they've asked her if they want to do that to Q, and she's like, of course, like I didn't get to say goodbye like many people do with accidents. And so they've decided to do that. Jamal has mixed feelings because now he gets his chance to try to talk to him, but how does that look? Because Q doesn't know he died before, he doesn't know anything happened. He just wakes up at home, doesn't know that much happened. And so he's trying to figure out how to use this time. He has about 30 days to kind of rekindle this friendship and kind of make things right, but also not tell him that he is reimagined right now. So there's lots of things that are happening with different layers with the mom's decision to do this and all of those things. It makes you start thinking about what would you do if you had the chance for a loved one and things like that. So it's very touching. It's a fun story. Once you get past the reimagining part, it's a little different. But if you want that different, realistic story that definitely tugs on your heartstrings, Early Departures would be a good one for you. All right. Thank you for joining us today. Hopefully you found something that will interest you to read next. And we look forward to seeing you when we do book talks again soon. Bye.
Bye.